Today on Independence Guitar, we're going to try and answer the age-old question of, is buying a more expensive guitar worth it? Or rather, is it worth it for you? Let's get into it.
Independence Guitar!
With the uptick in the amount of boutique companies that are available today, there is an almost endless amount of guitar companies that you can choose from. I tend to go with Jackson just because I like the way they look, their playability, and they're really sturdy even in their less expensive range. So that being said, today we're going to compare a JS22 7-string, which would be the low inexpensive range. We're going to compare an X Series 7-string, which would be the mid-range, about a $600 guitar, and we're going to compare that to a DK2 FR7, the high range, which is about a $1,400 guitar. So we're going to take a look at the specs, the hardware, and the tones, and see, is it really worth it? Okay, so to start, we have my dinky JS22. The JS22-7 is a 26.5-inch scale length. This one is actually upgraded, so this is not the stock hardware on it. Here's a little bit of a look at what the stock hardware looked like and kind of a rundown of how it worked for me.
I played on the stock Jackson bridge for about a year and a half, as you can see from the wear and tear. I can't give you the exact specs on its composition, but I can say that it is made of a softer metal. Functionally, however, it's a great bridge. It's rough around the edges, the paint doesn't sit very well, and it's overall rough to the touch. So while its craftsmanship is not of the best overall quality, I do appreciate the fact that it has sidewalls. The sidewalls allow you to really lay into the strings without having to worry about your bridge saddles moving and knocking your guitar out of tune. While maybe not of the same quality, this is a feature that it shares with the Hipshot bridge. Depending on what JS22-7 model you get, it may or may not have sidewalls on the bridge. Jackson changed to an open bridge on the newer models in 2019, I believe, which is one downside to buying the more inexpensive models. One other thing to watch for is the bridge saddle posts actually burrowing into the bridge itself, which you can see outlined in the picture here. While the stock tuning keys are not of the greatest quality, they're definitely not the worst I've ever seen. The internal gears, as with most other guitars at this price point, tend to slip a little, so ensuring that you stretch and wrap them properly really goes a long way. The JS22 has stock ceramic pickups that are prone to noise and high gain, still not the worst I've seen in that price point. The stock nut is made of plastic, and while cheaply made, it did hold up through some really heavy playing. All these things taken into account, I have to admit that the stock hardware is very functional, and while not visually, it did hold up structurally. The new hardware includes Goto locking tuners, a graphite tusk nut, a rolled fretboard, and polished and sanded frets. Other upgrades to this guitar include Pegasus Sentient humbuckers wired to a push-pull pot for coil splitting. And finally, the bridge is a USA Hipshot 7-string that, if you notice, is very similar in design to the stock one.
So this is a really good example of what you can do with an inexpensive guitar after putting a little bit more money and work into it. And even with the extra mods, it still comes in at a much lower price than either two of the other guitars. So that being said, let's give it a little sound test so we can compare. have here is a JS22-7 MS. This is an X series Jackson, what I consider to be mid-range. It is around the $600 area. It's a multi-scale from 27 inch to 25.5 inch, so top string being 27 inches and the bottom string being 25 inches. Hence why the nut is slanted this way and the bridge is slanted this way. Now let's take a look at the hardware and get some specs.
The nut on the X series is still plastic, but the die-cast tuners are a huge step above the ones on the JS22. The neck and the frets were also rolled out of the factory, making them way more comfortable to play. The neck pickup is the original blade pickup, and the bridge pickup is an SFTY4 from Instrumental Pickups. This one was custom made to fit the fan fret scale.
Okay, so this model being a solid $400 more, you'd expect the hardware on it to be much better quality. I can attest to that. The tuners hold tune way better than the stock tuners on the JS22. The bridge material, excuse me, well, I thought the bridge material was kind of the same at first. It has definitely held up much better through some really heavy use. It doesn't have the same gouges as the JS22 did, and as you can see, it's independent saddles. So the bridge isn't actually one piece. It's actually 7 separate pieces. The fretwork on this is it's pretty good. It's definitely a step up from the JS22, but the JS22 really isn't all that bad. So, I mean, for the money, I wouldn't say that the fretwork is that much better, but that's not saying much. I would say that both guitars are fretted pretty well, and for a $200 guitar straight out of the box, the JS22 is a really solid guitar. The only issue I ever had with this one, the MS, was that the pickups were too high. However, I really love the tone of the neck pickup, so what I tend to do is just roll back the volume a little bit to clear up the noise and the squeal. Takes care of it, and it's still plenty of signal coming through. The bridge pickup is now an SFTY4 from Instrumental Pickups, and while I was skeptical at first, I had it for a few months and I actually had it wired backwards, so the middle position was out of phase. And I didn't realize what I had done wrong, and I texted the guys at Instrumental Pickups and they got me squared away. And ever since then, I absolutely love the pickup. It's a perfect mix of clarity, of signal strength, of just everything you could want out of the pickup. Because it tends to be that you kind of give or take one or the other. You either get a really hot pickup that's not clear at all, maybe muddy, or you get a really clear pickup that just has no gain whatsoever. This is kind of just, it's got it all. I'm definitely a believer now. They're a little pricey. I believe this one cost me, or sent me back about 150 bucks. That's because it was for a multi-scale guitar. They're a little cheaper than that. I think a little over $200 for a set, something like that, or about $130 for just a single pickup. Anyway, that being said, let's give it a sound test. know me or if you've seen my unboxing video, you know that this is my DK2 FR7. This is new to 2020. This is going to represent the more expensive models. This comes in at about $1,400. That being said, let's get a closer up look and get some specs.
So the tuners are Jackson branded Goto closeback tuners, and the nut is part of the Floyd Rose locking system. The fretboard is binded with ebony, and the frets are jumbo. The side dots are also lumen lay. The pickups are Fishman Fluence open core, and the bridge is part of the original made in the USA Floyd Rose double locking tremolo system. The pickups can be split with a 5-way switch, and the tone knob is a push-pull pop for a PAF or hot rodded voicing.
So as you can see from the close-up look, this guitar is absolutely beautiful and to me about perfect in every way. The fretboard is rolled perfectly, the frets are flawless, the grain in the ash is just absolutely beautiful. I love what they've done with the paint. Coincidence, I actually had somebody point out to me that this is actually the model that Zounds uses on their listing page. I actually got that one. So I guess they thought this one looks the best. Let's use this as the model, and yeah, that's the one I got. So I kind of looked out there. I love everything about it. The Floyd Rose, ebony fretboard. There's just not really much more you can say about this guitar other than just it was made for me. That being said, let's get a comparison test. Okay, so the answer to the question, is it worth it to buy a more expensive instrument? I believe it is. Does it make you a better player having brand new nice gear? No, and kind of yes. If it's something that will inspire you to pick up the guitar and play it more, then it's absolutely worth it. In functionality though, the $200 guitar with the upgrades that I made to it, it comes very close to this instrument. The extra I guess in this case would be about a $1,000 gap. It doesn't justify the more expensive instrument. However, then at the same time, the premium instrument, it feels perfect. It feels basically like it plays itself. I didn't have to do anything to make it sound great. I didn't have to do anything to it to make it feel perfect. And more than that, when you get up close to it, it's just everything about it you could tell is great craftsmanship. The binding on the neck, just everything about it is top of the line craftsmanship. And you just don't get that with the lower end guitars. So really, I guess it's person to person whether or not it's worth it. If that's something that is important to you, then you won't get this kind of quality in a $200 instrument no matter what you do to it, and you won't get this quality in a $600, $700, or $800 instrument no matter what you do to it. That's all I can say. It's just absolutely top of the line, and it's the bee's knees. Anyway, let me know what you think. Be sure to leave a comment and subscribe and come back for more content. I will be posting plenty of that. I'm out.